Did Kyrie make the wrong comments regarding the media? We'll dive in that and plus many more subjects on tonight's show. Also, here on Fast Break, live on IE Sports Radio. We'll also continue our division preview series leading up to the NBA season on December 22nd, previewing the Northwest Division. And you're welcome to join us live here on a beautiful Sunday night. And join us as you shout tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. An action-packed show here tonight on IE Sports Radio. Here on a Sunday night, here on December the 13th. About not too far away from Christmas. And lots of goodies and treats left to be unraveled. D-Lock, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Preseason basketball has just started, so NBA is back already, as they say. My Bucks won today, so I'm feeling really good right now. Watching the Magic, a couple preseason games. Did see Kevin Durant also for Brooklyn be a little active tonight, so everything's up right now.
Yes. Shout out to the chat. Terry Rodriguez in the chat saying all three of our NFL teams won today. Yes, sir. Titans, Bucks, and Chargers did their things today. Atlanta may gifted the Chargers a win. You know, being Atlanta. Titans handling business against the Jags. And the Bucks, I feel like they should have capitalized more on opportunities, but they got the job done against the Vikings. So, where can we begin tonight, D-Lock? And one place I think you wanted to touch on, really talk about, is one Mr. Kyrie Irving. Mr. Kyrie Irving has chosen not to talk to the media this year or when he soon pleases. I guess that's how we can shape it. Mr. Kyrie Irving, D-Lock, I think you probably agree with this. He is a man of his own, I guess. You know, he follows the beat to his own drum.
Right.
You know, you go on past interviews he has done, you know, with media and stuff like that. He just says the things that kind of make you shake your head. And we kind of dived into some of his comments, you know, earlier this year. With the whole regards about Steve Nash, you know, him, they don't really need a head coach. You know, Steve Nash is there. We're going to do our own thing. And we kind of like, and we talked about, it was like, okay, if you see Nash, you're hearing these comments, you hoping, you know, things don't go sideways, and then Kyrie does his own thing and kind of mess up what you're trying to build as a first-year coach out of control.
Yeah. I mean, it's like he's... Dude, the question has always been since him and Kevin Durant got on the same team, how far can this team go? What can they do? They can do so much, but there's one person I'm skeptical about, and that is one Kyrie Irving. I mean, how he acts is just, you know, this is not the first time we've seen this, you know, how he acts, for, you know, what he says, and the fact that he's very vocal in how he does things. Wasn't it last year, I believe, we were hearing that, I think the coach was saying that they would literally go like a week or two without even having like a conversation with him. Or he wouldn't, talk to him too much. It would be literally just like practice and then, on his own kind of thing. So that, and then also we see what happened in Boston and obviously the Cleveland situation. So he kind of does his own thing, and even in the bubble, or before getting to the bubble, he had his own thought process around that as well.
Yeah, and to touch on that is just like, I think KD don't care. I mean, I can't say he don't care who his coach is, but I think, KD's real coachable. I think, being around Steve Nash, especially back in Golden State, him getting hired, I think he's going to embrace his new coach. Then, of course, the assistants he surrounded himself with, with the Mike D'Antoni, I'm Yukota, Amari Stoudemire. And, you mentioned Kenny Atkinson. Kenny Atkinson really wasn't feeling coaching that team. That's why he, they parted ways. And,
right.
If you ever get a chance to coach two, all-stars like that, in a marquee, place, you got great young talent around them. Okay, you think you would be there for a little while, but he didn't want to do that. And
right,
judging by, what Kyrie said about Steve Nash, and then I'll just read here, what he said on Instagram. I've had enough of someone else's propaganda. I'm for the truth. I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice. Sound like a damn DC character. But anyways.
Yeah.
No matter who's it for or against, I'm a human being first and foremost. And as such, I am for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole. Now, he quoted that from Malcolm X. And then he continues, says, I pray we utilize the fine money, in quotation marks, for the marginalized communities in need, especially seeing where our world is presently. I am here for peace, love, and greatness. So stop distracting me and my team and appreciate the art. We move different over here. I do not talk to pawns. My attention is worth more. What are your thoughts on that?
So for me, let's do a quick look up of the word pawn. For one, I think I told you before, it says a chess piece of a small size or in value, right?
Yep.
So, a lot of people that play chess know more. I don't really play chess like that. I'm more of a checkers guy. But so basically, in all the senses, what he's saying is, he's not talking about a chess piece. He's talking about the value. It's by saying, I don't talk to pawns. Now, he can say, you know what, well, I didn't mean it by that. I was just saying a checker piece. Like, you're not getting interviewed by a chess piece. But this piece on the chess board has very small value, right? It's very small. It's not very important. These are the ones that go first. Did you see X-Men?
Yes. You talking about the movies or the cartoon series?
Yeah. So X-Men, the movie. So.
Oh yes.
I remember Magneto, I think on the last one, I remember he was saying, like, letting everybody else go first. His other guys was going to go. And he said, now you let the pawns go first. So what he's saying is, you let the lesser values to go first. You put them at risk because they're not as important. So I'll bring it back to the Kyrie thing. I just wanted to say that because basically the word of saying pawn is the value is not there. The value is not important is what he's saying. I don't talk to pawns. I don't do interviews with pawns, people that don't have the same value as me or on a similar value as me. So I would take offense to that. That's like the most disrespectful thing that you can ever say to anybody is the fact that you would say they don't have the same amount, they're not as valued as much as you are. It's kind of like a spit in the face, to be honest. If I was anybody doing any writing or anything, I really would take offense to that, because it's like you're feeling as if you're on a higher level than everybody. Now, Kyrie can come back and say, "Well, that's not what I meant," but dude, this is what you're posting on Instagram. And these are the things that are coming out your mouth, right? As the phrase says, he's putting his foot in his mouth. So, I don't like it, to be honest. That's like one of the most disrespectful things you probably can say to any human, just in general. How does that go moving forward? Because of course he's going to get fined, but you still the season hasn't even started yet, and this dude is talking about he's calling reporters and other people's pawns. So, how a reporter is going to treat this every game when they go to the playoffs, when they got interviews? Is he going to treat it the same way? Like, how do you got all these other people that do interviews, that call games, that do these different things, and this is what they're coming out saying. So, me personally, I think that was like the most disrespectful thing that you can say.
To quote Malcolm X, in this situation was odd. If you don't want to speak to media, I think you could use other quotes. Is Kyrie this great leader as he perceived? I don't think so. Does he think his leadership carries, his teams over the top? I don't think so. Use the Boston, back when he was back in Boston, using that as an example. That young squad almost got to the NBA Finals against his former team, the Cavs, without him. And, I don't know if he was there. Maybe he willed them and got them to the finals. Who knows? But, we kind of seen, post Kyrie that they really didn't need him. And just kind of like a little speed bump along the way. Now here in Brooklyn, the tensions with the media and stuff like that, stuff, Bill Simmons has said about him, which of course I think that's more Bill Simmons being salty that he left Boston, but that's another story for another day. And then, Bomani Jones calling him a fool. Has called Kyrie a fool multiple times. For the stuff he has said. And then, what I noticed, being in New York media, it's a different animal.
Yep.
Not like what it used to be, but it's still there. It still has its bite. And I was just thinking, like, where's this dude's head at? Why are you making unnecessary, comments when your team is expected to at least make it to the Eastern Conference Finals? And y'all got to be clicking all cylinders, because we see in the bubble, the Milwaukee Bucks got put out very, quick fashion by the Heat, and they made surprise run to the finals. Boston, once they get the injuries under control, they can make another strong push. Milwaukee, they did some changes. I think they may take a little step back, but they're still there with Giannis in the fold. Toronto, very consistent the past few years. Yeah. Indiana, they're gonna run back the same squad. We'll see how they look. Orlando, hell, your Orlando Magic. They ain't made no real changes, and especially with the bubble and stuff like that, some continuity may bring a surprise run for them. So if you're the Nets, you really don't need no outside distractions like this. And especially with Kyrie and KD, you got to hit the ground running from the jump, trying to stay ahead. Because if not, if things don't come out good, if Kyrie has a bad game, is he going to come out and say something crazy?
Yeah. With him, boys, you I ain't gonna lie. It's like media. If I was in media, I would love to go to his kind of games because you don't know what he's gonna say. And the thing about it is, it's always gonna, media is about writing stories, right? You're gonna get a lot of stories. You're gonna get a lot of people reading, and Kyrie is gonna be a story. He messed around and has a bad game yet, and on top of that, Kevin Durant is the game winner. I'm looking for Kyrie because I want to see his response and see how he feels. He's kind of similar to Baker Mayfield. I'm not sure if a lot of you guys have been watching or watch a lot of football, but kind of like Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield wins. He has all the stuff to say. He's very arrogant. He can say whatever. When he loses, he's just a totally different player when it comes to interviews. So they're kind of similar in that aspect, but it's just that some things that Kyrie is saying is it's going to be offensive to some of the people that he's going to run into in the future.
And we'll just put a bow on this because I think we'll revisit Mr. Irving again in the Nets, and then seeing some of the clips I've seen, Kyrie looks pretty good, in preseason form. I just think, some things he should just kind of read the room and just kind of scale back. And, even you don't want to talk to the media, and like I mentioned before, like some people in the media, I get it. I mean, I get it. I mean, I wouldn't talk to them either if they crap on me all the time. But, I'll say take a page out of Russell Westbrook. Him and that B-Water out of Oklahoma City. I can't think of his name right now. But they had a long beef, and Russ is, just come up and say, so, next question. If you feel like don't want to talk to, certain folks in the media, just say, hey, next question. Talk to who you want to talk to, and then go about your business. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue our division preview series here tonight. We are going to talk about the Northwest Division. If you haven't caught the other two divisions, we did the Pacific and then we did the Southwest this last week. Do check out those out on the replays on iesportsradio.com. We give our thoughts to who's going to come from 5 to 1. I think last week, I just had one team come out of the Southwest Division because there's like a lot of questions and uncertainty with that division. This one right here, it's going to be a tough one.
Northwest?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, this one is going to be, or I mean, for me, I can go ahead and start out if you want me to.
You can go. Yeah, go ahead. You can go ahead.
So at 5, I have OKC. I think that we're gonna find out how big of a deal Chris Paul was over there. Also, it really feels like this team is kind of building towards the future. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. Like, I really didn't. We wasn't expecting them to have a big a year that they had. Hell, I don't even think they thought they was gonna have a year like that. So, so much building for the future that they kind of would just, hey, we got Chris Paul, we're gonna kind of build with a couple of guys that we got, and then we're gonna try to move forward off of that. But it was a pretty exciting season. But I just think that Chris Paul not being there right now, it seems like he have a lot of contracts that they're holding. Also having a lot of draft picks. About last check they had 7? I think it's 16 or 17.
Yeah, I think so, around there.
Yeah, so I actually think that out of 16 or 17, they got to hit on one at some point. I mean, dude, if you don't hit on none of those picks, you might well go ahead and move that franchise. So for me, I do have them at 5. I think they're kind of building towards the future. I like SGA, what he's going to do there. Al Horford's at the tail end of his career. I don't expect too much from him going forward. So, but have them at the bottom. This is where it gets kind of antsy. So at 4, I have Utah.
Ooh.
Yeah. And the reason why is because I mean, they had a very good season. I like what Donovan Mitchell did. I see another team that I'll talk about later just making a huge jump. But with Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Jordan Clarkson, the one person that was very inconsistent this year too was Joe Ingles. Mm-hmm. I didn't really see too much from him this year. Like, it just seemed like he kind of was like, having, different issues in different spots, maybe injuries or, mentally he was like somewhere else. Bogdanovich played pretty solid, but also the thing that does bother me about this team is Royce O'Neal playing the 4. As solid as he is, I don't think he's a good power forward for them. I mean, now with how much bigger the West has gotten all around, I think that could hurt them a little bit. Now, they did get Derek Favors. Also, I think they got that guy from Chicago, Shaquille Harrison, who played pretty good with the guards over there. But this division is like, you said before, this is one of the tougher divisions. I think they're going to be on the cusp of making the playoffs. But the West, like I said, the fight for that AC is going to go down to the last game. I literally believe that. 3, Minnesota Timberwolves. So they got D'Lo last year. I just see too much talent on this team this year than last year. I think the chemistry is going to be better. When I said it was tough for me picking the Jazz at 4, I just think that the fact that you have Rubio coming in, who's a hell of a dish kind of point guard, you got him. You got Malik Beasley. You're going to have Anthony Edwards. You're going to be loaded with guards. And then you got, obviously, the big man and Cat. Like, this team is going to be pretty good. They picked up Hollis Jefferson as well, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so they got a little bit of depth to this team. I think Malik Beasley is very underrated. I think he could play a huge role with this team as well. I just think that what we're going to see this year is the chemistry between D'Lo and Cat. I had always thought that D'Lo was a player that can like make a big difference in the franchise. In my opinion, I thought that any player that goes to LA, we've seen it with Lonzo and D'Lo, and Bi, they go somewhere else, it was like a totally different player, right? Under the, outside of being in Los Angeles, so in Laker country. So for me, I think that D'Lo is a hell of a player. Like we've seen it in Brooklyn, and I think he's going to have a great, a much better chemistry with Cat this year. But it's not only going to be about him. You add a couple other pieces in Anthony Edwards, and you go get Rubio. Like you're stacked at the guard scenario right now. Situation. Jared Colbert is still there. You got Malik Beasley. Like you have a very, very solid rotation. I like Hollis Jefferson. Between him and Ancho Juan Hernan Gomez there. You have a couple pieces. You did pick up Ed Davis, but Cat is going to be your guy. If he can stay healthy, if he can play physical consistently, I think they can win a lot of games. Like I really, really do. I always wanted to see what they were going to do with that pick. And to be honest, at first I was kind of skeptical on, trading for Rubio. But in a sense, with this team, they can play long. They can play small ball. They can be long all the way down the board. They have a lot of pieces here. Don't forget they still got Josh Okogie as well. So I think that me putting them at 3 is the bonus of them getting better, but also the inconsistency that I think we see in Utah. So those were the two that it just had me like on the edge to picking, okay, who's going to be at 4, who's going to be at 3. But it was tough, man. I mean, for me, I really like D'Lo as a player, man. Him and Karl-Anthony Towns together, that could be a very special combination. For me, that's just, what I'm thinking. I think D'Lo can be, a very solid player. Okay, so number 2. Now you thought picking 3 and 4 was kind of tough. Hell, picking 2 and 1 was also a tough thing. I'm gonna go with the Denver Nuggets at 2.
Okay.
They pick up JaMychal Green. We talked about him. We tweeted about him a couple of times on our NBA Fast Break Twitter page. Make sure y'all check it out. About Bol is he looks good, but it's like, we talked about it last year. Didn't we see him look pretty solid before the bubble was getting started? And then all of a sudden they're not using him correctly, and he's not, they're not using him as we thought they would. So I think it's still kind of a question mark under him right now. You got Michael Porter, who's going to flourish this year a lot better. You did pick up JaMychal Green. Paul Millsap came back, right?
Yeah, he came back.
Yeah, so you picked up you still got Paul Millsap. You got your buddy Isaiah Hartenstein from Houston, who he came in for a little bit for him a couple of times. I think he can at least get some minutes for them, replacing Plumlee. But Jokic obviously is going to be there, and he's going to play a big piece. But for me, this team goes with where Jamal Murray and Jokic do. They're pretty much solid. Also, we got to see what happens with Will Barton. I mean, he was nowhere to be seen in the bubble. So, I would love to see what they do more with Michael Porter this year. I just feel like it seemed like last year he was just more so shot dependent, and his defense was kind of a struggle. So if he can improve that defense, just a little bit more, maybe he grabs more minutes, meaning he would be more effective. So I could see that, and possibly, they can make a big run like they did this past playoffs. But the thing about playoffs is a team that get really once they get that rhythm in the playoffs, it's kind of hard to stop. That's what happened last year. They got the rhythm with every team. Remember, they were down 3-1 against two teams. And mess around, they were just, we're down 3-1. We've been here before. Come back and do it against the Clippers. So I like them. I think they're going to be pretty solid. But again, we're not even talking about the East. The East is a lot easier than this. And number one, for me, I had to pick Portland. The fact that they did grab a lot of defense, especially picking up Covington. I think Derrick Jones made him a lot longer. So now they have Nurkic, you got Covington. So you're a lot longer. You did bring back Melo. And obviously you got the two guards. So one person that did show up this year that made a big difference for me, that did show that he can be a good role player if he do get the minutes, is Gary Trent Jr. He did come in a lot and show what he can do. Also, kind of like Anthony Simmons, I know he can show up from time to time. So this team is pretty much, I think they're better than last year. The fact that they went and got Covington, that's a huge piece. We see what he did last year with both Russ and James Harden. So, imagine what he's going to do when he has two players who are not necessarily under the rim as much as James Harden and Russ is, or don't have to necessarily spread the floor. So, Enes Kanter's still back, right?
Yeah, he came back in the trade.
Yeah, so you got Enes Kanter. He's not the Enes Kanter that we remember from a while back, but I think he can play a good role. Harry Giles is another player I like. If he can stay healthy, that'll be a very, very solid pickup. But like I said, this team can go small on you as well. They can go long, and that's what I like about Portland. So for me, like I said, they did get kind of had to get 4, but I got Thunder at 5, Jazz at 4, Minnesota at 3, Denver at 2, and Portland at 1.
Interesting. My number 5 aligns with your number 5, OKC. I think they take a step back. I think, one of the teams that surprised us, everybody last year. We didn't know if Chris Paul was going to be there at the start of the season last year, but then, he was there. And then, as you know, OKC, played pretty well, pretty consistently throughout the season. So much so, they took Houston to 7-game series in that first round. And then, if they got to the second round, who knows what happened with the Lakers matchup, because they kind of had their number a couple times, this past season. But we expect them to take a step back. I think, like you said, they're building for the future. And I don't know, it seems like Sam Presti's going to be in the same pressure that Danny Ainge was with, the draft capital and the young assets to do something. But I don't think he's going to be magnified more like Danny Ainge was, because, you're in Boston, you're supposed to compete for championships. While OKC, you're small market, you're supposed to get your superstar through the draft. And, and hope for the best. Can Sam Presti find his franchise player in the future? Time will tell. Do they start selling some of their assets off come trade deadline? Like Al Horford, George Hill, Trevor Ariza. Those guys. Do they play decent enough throughout the season that you can send them off for some future second round picks or first round pick to a veteran team that's chasing the playoffs? But I think, Shea is going to take another huge leap this year. I'm curious what Lugnet's Dort does this year.
Yeah.
Dalio from Kentucky, I want to see more out of him. Just trying to see who else. Looking through this roster. Amherst Sofield from Tennessee. When given a chance, he plays pretty well. So hopefully with his, OKC team, he can, latch on and kind of show that he can be a 3D player, even for OKC or some other team down the line. But just looking down this roster, I think, they'll be competitive, but they'll be, bringing up the rear this year. Number 4 for me is Minnesota. I know you're high on them. Hopefully this is where D'Lo, D'Angelo Russell can find his footing in the NBA because he really hasn't found that footing.
Yeah.
Let me off topic this a little bit. The situation in LA years ago, him and Nick Young, all that stuff, Magic being there and stuff like that. Here's my thing on that. Why, if I was Jeannie Buss or Jim Buss, whoever charged the Lakers, well, Jeannie, my bad. I told Magic this. We cannot trade our cornerstone second overall pick just because Nick Young felt a certain type of way.
Right.
You sit that young 18, 19-year-old kid down. You tell him, okay, don't do that, don't do that crap again. And you move on. It's that simple. Because I'm not trading D'Lo just because the locker room don't trust him. That's idiotic logic right there. So, with that happening with D'Lo, and also you talk about Nick Young that has been bouncing around the league and stuff like that, and is known to be a quote unquote clown in some circles. So you burn that bridge with that kid, train out to Brooklyn, in which, he didn't find his footing until some injuries happened because he really had some DNPs while he was in Brooklyn, like healthy scratches. And then, he kind of came to his own and, had an all-star season. But then, he gets traded for KD because KD didn't want to be this sign trade for draft picks, whatever. Gets to Golden State. Things didn't work out there, hope. Now he gets traded to Minnesota to, I guess, one of his best buddies in Karl-Anthony Towns. And you hope, especially for Minnesota, that this is his footing. After bouncing around these marquee places, that he can come in, play his own game, be that 1-2 punch with Towns, and make some noise this year. I like Juan her Gomez at the 4.
Herman Gomez.
Yeah, Herman Gomez at the 4. I do like that, him spacing up the 4 for Cat, so he can dribble and drive and whatnot, post up, get that real spacing what their team needs. They got a nice, clutch of young guards that they may sell high on at some point, in Culver, Malik Beasley, Josh Okogie, and then, of course, your first round pick of Anthony Edwards. You got a nice little plethora of guards right there. And then, we talked about this back in the draft. While Rubio was a good pickup, I thought about this. Okay. At that time, I thought, okay, if you're going to take somebody who's real flashy with the ball and stuff like that, why not just take LaMelo number 1 overall? But then I put some thoughts on it. Okay. And some of the guards I just named out, you need some veteran, balance there. So bringing in Rubio, pass first guy, they ain't going to look for a shot a lot. Play a little bit defense, stuff like that. Find the right guy in the open space. I think you did great. You did good doing that, for his contract that, still has a couple years on it. But Towns, Russell, they're the keys for this team to go. If you get contributions from everybody else, that'd be great. But I don't see this team as a playoff team. I think, West is too deep. I still ain't there with Karl Anthony Towns. I don't think he's that guy that gets you over the hump. But, we shall see with this season. I mean, I would like him to prove me wrong because I like him. But I just don't get that feeling from him. Number 3 for me. This is where it gets tough for me. Really tough. I thought about putting Portland here. But I'm going with Utah. I'm going with Utah. But I'm going to go with Utah. I was real close because I'm going back to last year. Portland got off to kind of a rough start. And yes, they upgraded some things that I think they put them ahead of Utah. I got Utah as the number 3 team. Reason I got Utah number 3, I just think Portland did more to kind of get them up in the standings just a little bit more. I didn't like the extension they gave Jordan Clarkson. I thought that was too much money for that type, the type of player that he is. It's like, y'all gave him that much money. Then, Joe Ingles, he's 33 years old. And, like you mentioned, he really didn't stick out a lot this past season. So, yeah, they can build him up as a tough guy and all that stuff, but it's just like, okay, what else can you provide there, dog? Royce O'Neal, he's okay to me. But, I think you brought up, I think they justify playing him so much because they paying all that money. And kind of like, Jordan Clarkson, he ain't worth all that money for what he provides.
Right.
But I think, for this team to succeed and kind of be in the middle of the pack like they have been doing the past couple years, Mike Conley, he got to have a bounce back year. He's got to return back to form. He's got to have a solid year. He may be playing for his last contract. So he's got to have a bounce back year. I think, Donovan Mitchell, he'll continue to improve. He got to shoot better. His efficiency's got to be better this upcoming year.
Yeah, I agree.
And then Rudy Gobert, I think, if he continues what he does, I think, they'd be solid. They did bring back Derek Favors to back up Rudy, so that was a very solid move. For the money, I don't know. It seems like, they just... I know you got paid money to get people to come to Utah. But it's just like, some of these players they sign, shouldn't cost that much money. In my humble opinion. But, very solid roster. No, Mitchell sticks out, but everybody else, if they can get some more out of these guys, I think they'd be this in the mix for the playoffs. Number 2, Portland.
Yeah.
I gotta go Portland here. I think one of the key things for them, health. If their big men are nice and healthy, and Zach Collins, Enes Canton, he was finding some injuries from Boston last year. Nurkic, he's been bouncing injuries as well. If they get those guys healthy, I think they'll help and go a long way with this team over the course of the year. Add Derrick Jones and Robert Covington. If you had to go small, you got those two guys to throw in there and kind of help spread out the floor. And I think, coming long runs with some matchups with some teams, you're not kind of forced to have, Nurkic and maybe Zach Collins out there. So if you got a matchup with Zach Collins and maybe, I don't know, if we playing small, who we got? Davis at the 5, Anthony Davis at the 5, and you got Nurkic and Collins out there. Lakers can go small. Move LeBron to 4, AD at the 5, and everybody else, flushing out whoever they may be. At times, you don't want to see that matchup. You don't want Zach Collins guarding LeBron at the 4. I'd rather throw out Derrick Jones and Robert Covington at that 4 spot than having Zach Collins there at the 4 trying to guard LeBron in crunch time or small ball minutes. So I think those two keys are key. Getting Rodney Hood healthy should be a plus. And then, Dame and McCollum just got to do their thing. Gary Trent come off the bench. I think he's going to be solid. Anthony Simmons, hopefully he takes another leap this year. You brought up Harry Giles. Harry Giles at one time, ladies and gentlemen, was considered the top high school player in the country.
Yep.
And it really never materialized because of injuries. If this guy can give you something, awesome. But, hopefully, they send him and play some time in the G League and maybe get his feet under him. And, with the big man injury history with the Blazers, if he gets his feet under him that's well enough, maybe he can have some surprise for them for the season. And then bring back Melo. I think he, want to show some unity with the Blazers. So, he decided to come back. And, he played pretty well for them. I got them number 2. Number 1, Denver Nuggets. I think this team is loaded with potential. It's a team that should scare some people down the road if 2 prospects kind of develop as everybody kind of hoped where they were coming out of high school. Michael Porter Jr. and Bo.
Yep.
Michael Porter Jr., if he didn't have that back injury at Missouri, would probably be the number 1 overall pick. I think this year, to see what you got in Michael Porter Jr., you got to start him off. You cannot throw out Paul Millsap this year. We talk about, I like Paul Millsap. I do. But Paul Millsap looked cooked this past season, especially showed in the bubble. He looked cooked. And then, they turned around and gave him $10 million for this year. So maybe that's a nice present for him, and possibly his last year. But they brought back, they brought in Jamaica Green as someone, insurance. In this case, Millsap ain't up to snuff. But if you've seen some great development in Bobo and Michael Porter Jr., you got some potential to do some damage around the league. Now, you do lose Jeremiah Grant, but I think, you're getting back Will Barton. We'll see what he provides. Denver fans have a love-hate relationship with him. You got young guys like P.J. Dozier in the mix. Gary Harris, very solid when he's healthy. Jamal Murray, he got to translate his playoff bubble run into the beginning of the season. He's got to come out, play very well from the jump, and I think they'll carry Denver a very long way. Because last year, he's starting, to, be more consistent, but at times, Washington kind of disappears or not shooting well. If you come out the gate playing very well, I think they go a long way for Denver. And Jokic being Jokic, I think he'll be in the MVP talk. And, for him, he's just 25 years old. And that's the scary thing. And then, Monte Morris, very solid backup. I just like that Denver team. Got a nice depth. Like I said, Porter, Bobo. If those guys make stride this year, I think that would carry that team a very long way. Not for this season, but for the future.
Yeah.
And hell. And then another guard I forgot to mention that, if he come along nicely, RJ Hampton.
I did see him, but I have to see a little bit. I definitely got to see what goes with that. Like what he can do and what kind of rotation he get in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm curious what they do with him. Do they send him down to the G League a lot this year? Because like I mentioned, you got P.J. Dozier who can play point and shooting guard. You got Monte Morris. So you got, those guys there. Will Barton's back in the fold. And Mike Malone kind of like, experiment, having those big lineups and stuff like that where all these guys can handle the ball. Like Jokic can handle the ball, Porter, Bobo, Millsap can handle the rock for a little bit. For Hampton, he's a big guard too.
Yeah.
I don't see him making waves this year. I think this is a pick that Denver kind of hopes to hit on. And possibly sell high in the future. Maybe, just maybe. Or he develops just enough that, if Gary Harris, still have bone injuries and stuff like that, you can slide in him to that 2-guard role and him be that common guard in the future. Because Murray, he don't necessarily have to have the ball in his hand to succeed, I think. But, he can play off ball a little bit. And I think Murray, he's big enough. He's 6'3", 6'4", can play off ball. And especially in today's NBA, Hampton can, handle the rock a little bit. But that's why I got number 1. To recap, I got OKC number 5, Minnesota number 4, Utah number 3, Portland number 2, Denver number 1.
Yeah. We kind of a little different, but
I do see what you're saying with um, Minnesota is so young. You got to put that chemistry together and kind of up and down with what you see what you're going to get from D'Lo. But it's that's just a player that I think I really liked him last 2 years ago. In the playoffs against who was it? Brooklyn played against. Was it Toronto?
I believe so. Yes.
When he was, I think he was talking about he had ice in his veins.
Yep.
Pretty solid. Yeah. So I really seen him kind of turn into this different play. Now he had a pretty solid season, heading into it, but it's the fact that he played. He showed what kind of player he could be in the right system and around the right players. So for me, that really made me think like, okay, this dude can be someone pretty special. You know what I'm saying? Now, like I said, the whole thing happened in LA probably had teams shy away from him and people to not pay as much attention to him. But yeah, so Timberwolves, they probably do have a little, I guess, growing up to do a little bit. Utah do have that chemistry, so they could come back. It's just that I just feel like, can Cat turn into that player? And if he can, we already know you're to the point now we know what Ricky Rubio is, right? We're not guessing who he is. We're not trying to figure out. We know exactly what kind of player he is. So can that group of guards help Anthony Edwards, elevate as well? So, and obviously you got the top two. I just, see Covington as being a huge pickup in, that division. I actually think that's the biggest pickup out of them all. To be honest with you, that's one thing that they struggled with over there in the bubble was defense, and picking up Covington was huge. But it we'll see. I mean, but we're talking about the West, so we know who can that those 8 teams, like that's going to be like the most interesting thing to see who gets that last spot. And then you don't even want it, like you want to make that top 8, but you want to get 7 instead of 8 because then you probably end up playing like the Lakers or the Clippers or somebody. So yeah, I definitely think that's the West is up and down. See, the West will see a team that go maybe 10 games over 500 and not make the playoffs, whereas the East is like the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's gonna be a dogfight. I think, a lot of teams in the West made their improvements. And if you're like at the top of the top, if you go against a young team like a OKC, Sacramento, New Orleans, games that you should win, they might surprise and beat you. And, we might come back here and say, not really upset, to a degree. I just think, it's going to be real interesting who's going to come out top in the West this year.
Yeah, that's going to be a battle.
And it's going to be, survival to the fittest. Who's going to capitalize from the start of the season? We see that the Lakers kind of holding out AD and LeBron right now. We seeing, Denver, looking sharp, as things, where it hasn't, missed a beat. I think, from the start of the season, who's going to come out looking sharp? Or who's going to show fatigue? Will Denver and the Lakers show fatigue, going deep to the playoffs? And will that affect them come to start out in the beginning of the season? I don't think LeBron, is going to sit out that first game of the year. Some people think he's going to hold out to January, which I don't think. I don't think LeBron would do that. And plus all the money that he puts into his body, you know, I highly doubt he'll start the season like that. But it's going to be key how each of these teams in the Western Conference is going to come out and start the season.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it's going to be, they got to come out firing them. I think that we're going to see a lot of big-time players not really playing too much in the preseason as well. So that's going to be prepping for, dude, it seems like we were just talking about the playoffs, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem like we were just talking about the Heat and the Lakers in the NBA Finals?
Yep.
And we were literally just talking about the draft, 2 or 3 weeks ago? So
yep.
Like, it's moving fast, right? So you're going to have players that are going to say, well, you know what? We're going to prep for the season, and we'll see them push a little bit later on. So I think this is going to be a year different than what we've seen in the past.
To kind of wrap up the Western Conference talk and stuff like that, do you see James Harden getting moved before the season or into a few games into the season?
At first, we had talked about it. I thought it was going to get moved before the season, but he started to name the destination that he wanted to go to. But I do think that they're going to ask for so much that it's going to literally be to the point to where a team is going to say, well, we're right in the thick of things, so now let's trade for him. That's what I think is going to happen. Dude, I've been calling on Twitter. I don't know if y'all see it. Follow me, Black-813. I've been saying, Orlando Magic, this is clear signs to give the Rockets a call to see what they want for this man. At least give them a call. Like, at least see what they want. Like, it's clear this man is ready to leave Houston. But get back to that question. I just think that it'll be probably a little bit in the season, a little bit. Dude, I don't even know how much he plays in the beginning with Houston, to be honest with you.
That's my question, is like, it seems like, he's opening the chance to more teams. I still think the best trade package to get the most value is Brooklyn. If you ask, for a Jared Allen, Caris LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, and maybe a couple first round picks, I think you're doing great. You're doing great work right there. But the other teams that has opened up, Miami has been thrown into the fold. Now, who they give up? You at least you got to come off Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and then I don't know, maybe a couple first round picks. I would say throw in Kendrick Nunn, but I don't know. Maybe you keep him around unless you want James Harden to be that primary point guard. The Sixers. You got to. I think you got to come off Ben Simmons if you trade for Harden, right?
Yeah, you probably do. Yeah. I mean, but what would be the point after that? Because I would be looking at them trying to get as a big three. To me, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, but it's just like Ben Simmons don't help space the floor. Well, no.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Magic.
Dude, I already told you.
Well, I was thinking about this when I was talking about Utah. Utah and Orlando are kind of similar in a sense. What I mean by that, teams that, got very solid starting lineup. Middle of the road. I think the only edge I'll give Utah is because they have Donovan Mitchell. But for Orlando, what you brought up, okay, if you're not going to tear down and rebuild and restart, and you hang on to these big old contracts and stuff like that, why not make, if you're going to try to still contend, why not make a push for a star player?
Exactly.
It's got to be enticing. Like, if you trying to trade for James Harden, how far is Orlando from Miami?
Orlando from Miami, that's about maybe about 3 hours, 4 hours, if that.
So, you know, you 3 hours away from Miami. I'm pretty sure James Harden got enough money for, for helicopter or private jet, whatever. So why not throw in Evan Fournier, Jonathan Isaac, whatever other salaries got to do, first round picks. Why not make it happen?
Yeah. I mean, I told you. I mean, for me, dude, oh my God. Like, I understand we just got Cole Anthony. All right, cool. But, a couple of these guys, you send a package deal over there, you're going to grab a lot of attention if you go grab James Harden. It's clear that this dude wants to leave. So, he's about 31 right now. You, in a sense, I believe if you get somebody like James Harden, you may have players that wouldn't mind wanting to play with him. So it's better than what you're looking at right now. Now, there's a couple guys that's playing good. I think Chuma's been playing pretty good because he was hurt last year. So I see him in rotation getting a little bit. But the fact is, you still got Alfred Amino on a fat contract right now who hasn't done anything. Aaron Gordon has that big contract. I thought they were already considering him. You got Vooch. Also, remember, you got Mo Bamba still in the fold who may just pick up Vooch's contract when he leaves. So all of these guys here, why not just give Houston a call and see what they look like, what kind of package you could come up with for a player like that? Because he is definitely a franchise changer. Again, now, remember we were just talking about how deep the West is? The East is the exact opposite. So if you can find a way to get you I believe James Harden or a player like James Harden can get a team in the Eastern playoffs. That's just Eastern Conference playoffs. That's just what I really believe. The fact that they have teams in there that's under 500 going, that lets me know that if you get a top 5 player like James Harden, getting pretty far in the playoffs is definitely possible. So, these are the things that, big franchises, they make these kind of moves. And it's like the Magic are not, they're not with it. Like they're just content with being, we're okay with being the 8th seed. Now, when these other teams start to be good, get better, I believe, to be honest with you, I think Washington got better because we didn't really see John Wall like that past couple of years. So now you're going to have Russ playing. They got better. So, Brooklyn, we already know. Boston's going to be Boston. Miami's going to be Miami. Milwaukee. When these teams start to make these improvements, Philly just got a hell of a lot better. Like, Toronto, there's only going to be 8 spots. So at some point, make some kind of move because what happens is now it goes back to that circle to where, okay, where you don't make the playoffs, now you got to fire the coach, and then you get another coach, and you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, right? And it doesn't change anything. So I think that he can be that big difference.
Yeah, I mean, who did Orlando play in the first round this past?
Milwaukee.
In the playoff. If you had like a James Harden in that mix, if you're Milwaukee, you don't want to see no James Harden in the first round.
Right.
Hell, if you get a James Harden and they round 6 to 8, maybe possibly 5, and especially in the East, you don't want to see James Harden in the first round. if you're a top 3 seeded team in the Eastern Conference, you don't see no James Harden in the first round. You don't. So, you know, to talk about the James Harden, you know, does Houston find the right deal and get him out if he's truly unhappy? That would be a big question, you know, throughout preseason and then throughout the beginning of the year. And we'll see how he acts outside, you know, the NBA, you know, rules and regulations, you know, with COVID. Because like I said, COVID ain't gone away. My wife just got over COVID. It ain't going away. And with James,
Yeah, he's gonna be here for a while.
And with James Harden out and about doing his thing, I don't know, like maybe after a while the team gets tired and gets rid of him.
But it's just that some things like that you see James Harden now and it's clear the man don't want to be there.
No, he don't. You know, and turn down the money from Tillman Fertitta as well. In which, you know, I'm kind of surprised Tillman hasn't thought about trading him to kind of save money because, you know, Tillman has lost a lot of money during this pandemic and stuff. So you figure, you know, he was trying to sell high and save money that way. But, you know,
yeah.
Tillman, you know, hey, he wants to keep things going. But
yeah,
it seems like his main guy really don't want to be there.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, man, like if I come to you, right, and if you come to me, you say, hey, you got this star player that's on the team, or I come to you and I tell you, well, hey, he's not even showing up to practice. You know, he's not even in the city. I've offered him this ridiculous contract. He's been here for a couple of years. You're new now. You're the new coach. You know, we got this new contract. He's turning down everything. Now, mind you, now we're talking about a pandemic, so we're not talking about a regular NBA season. We're talking about a season where things are a lot shorter. So now, you know, they got to report by a specific time. The season is about to start. Hell, they just started preseason, and your number one guy is just completely not there. Like, he's not showing up at all. What do you do? Because at this point, like, do you? I can't keep waiting around, man. I just wouldn't be able to. I don't. As somebody that in as good as they can be and help the team, they're doing more damage. Like, they're doing a hell of a lot more damage. Like, if it's clear that this person does not want to be here, hey, you know what? I can try to see if I can talk to you to see if you want to be here. But if you're telling me literally turning down a historic contract to stay here, like, you know, now not only that, you're coming to practice, you know, coming up late, and not only you're doing that, you're telling me what other destination that you want to go to. Like, it's similar to, I'll give you an example. It's kind of similar to wanting to transfer from college. Only difference is obviously there's a lot more money. You got an athlete, Bama got a kid coming in, basketball or football, that is like the number one recruit, and clearly he can change everything in your franchise. But this dude is not even at your university. But this dude is not even showing up. And then when he do show up to practice, or he, you know, does show up to campus, he has other people close to him and himself telling you, well, you know what, I kind of want to transfer and go these places, that place. I'm open to going here, going there. You're telling him, look, man, we get you the best place to stay at. He says, nah, man, I'm good. How do you consent? How do you continuously, you know what I'm saying? Like, keep trying to keep this man to stay here. Like, I can't, I wouldn't be able to do
it. Yeah, and we'll see how Houston handles James Harden. Steven Silas, he's in the rock and a hard place with James Harden. It's like he wants to take a hard stance to a degree, but in the same breath, what if this guy? I have this guy for the whole year.
Yeah.
So I really can't say what I want to say because we might have him around for the whole year, and I need him for the start. For my tenure here in Houston.
Yeah. It just, damn, like, and I just know that from I guess I'm looking at it on the athletic side too, because, dude, just growing up, think about the situation with Jimmy Butler in Minnesota. Like, that was just like, that was a shit show, bro.
Yeah.
Like, this dude is literally going against them in practice. Like, do you really want to have that in practice? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you really want to have that going on? Like, no. I guess, it's cancerous to the team.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta cut the cord somewhere.
Yep.
And if James gets traded before the season starts or not, time will tell. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been our show tonight. I know I kind of want to get into Coach K comments, but we'll do that next week. What he said and what he even said it. If his team is still undefeated, but we'll talk. I'll hopefully dive into that next week. D-Lock, how can people find you on social media?
You guys can definitely find me at Black-813 on Twitter and Instagram. Firing up the YouTube channel once again. Kind of been scaling back a little bit because now we got a lot of so-called Bucks fans coming out of nowhere. So, but we definitely back on. Still a little heartbroken about what happened with Florida yesterday. My gosh. But anyway, yeah, you guys definitely find me there, man. Let me know about
you can find me on Twitter at Spawn4288. That is Spawn4288. Also, you can find me. I do another podcast on the side called The Critics Process. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. You'll see the CP logo there. So please give me a follow on there. I don't know when I have another episode up soon, but I'll think of something here. But do check me out on there. Also, if you're not following us on Twitter at Fastbreak, at IESR, that's Fastbreak IESR. You can keep up with us with all the latest news. Our takes going on in the basketball world. I think we tweet out from the account, the first, few games of NBA preseason. Obi Toppin looked pretty decent for the Knicks. We'll see. Hopefully Tom Thibodeau don't run him to the ground. And, also go to iesportsradio.com. Check out the previous playbacks of our show and all of our shows here on the network, especially if you want to get caught up on the division series that we did in the Pacific and Southwest. Do catch up on that. And also catch up on this on tonight's show. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in with us. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
All right.